Hey, Basic Math 7 people. We are on to section 9-7 in our book. Wow, we're getting through this chapter. Like I said in our Zoom meeting, we got about one more section to do, and then we're into the end of the chapter. So next week, once we end this chapter up, like I said, we won't have any more additional assignments to do. You'll just have to work on for the next week and a half, getting any of the assignments that you don't have done yet handed in. Okay, so let's go through the first 8 problems on this assignment here. Okay, the simple interest problems. Now, like I said, all of these lessons kind of have formulas that go along with it. This one's no different. This formula has symbols that represent things. So I equals P R T. Now, each one of these letters stands for something. I stands for interest. P stands for principal. I'll tell you what that is. Let me make sure I spell principal correctly. Hold on, yeah, AL. Rate and time. Okay, whenever we talk about math, whenever we have a letter next to a letter as a symbol or a number next to a letter, we're talking about the operation of multiplication. Okay? So there's that. So interest equals principal times rate times time. Okay? So let's give you some background knowledge a little bit here. You go to a bank, you put some money into the bank for savings. All right? So the money you put into that bank, the money we start with, is what we call the principal. That's the starting money. Okay? So we have starting money that we put in there. Let's say that I went to a bank and I started off and I put $500 in the bank. Okay? Now, because I'm putting it into a savings account and I'm leaving it there for a certain amount of time, the bank can know that they can use that money, because I'm not just going to be continually drawing money off of that. That's more like a checking account. But in a savings account, we can put money in and it stays there for a while, and then the bank uses that to lend it out to other people. And because they use my money that I put in there to lend out to other people, they pay me back a little bit of money because of that. So that money actually earns stuff just by sitting there. Okay? Hopefully, maybe your parents have started a savings account when you were younger, like at 7 or 8 years old, and then as you go along, you can add to your principal all the time. Okay? The simple interest is this. So the rate will be a percent of how much they will give you to keep your money in the bank. So let's do one that's probably not realistic for us, but usually a bank's rate will be a lot less than this, but we're going to just say that this is an amazing bank and they're going to give us 5% of a rate. So the rate will always be in a percent form. Okay, so there's where our percentage comes in for this chapter, because we're talking about percent. Now the time will be how long it stays in there for. Okay, and time, amazingly enough, can be used in either years or months. And so the way we want to figure it was we want to figure it in comparison to years. So we have to think about, okay, how many months are in a year? Well, there's 12 months in a year. Okay? So if you had, in some of these problems, they'll say that there's only you kept it in there for a year and 6 months. Well, 6 months is half of a year. So 6/12 would be the same as 1/2 of a year, which would also mean that in a decimal form, that's 0.5, okay? So what's 1/4 of a year? That would be 3/12, or 1/4. That would be 0.25. Or you could do one that is 9/12. That's 3/4 of a year, and that converts to 0.75. I hope you can see this on the video. I didn't see how far over to the right you can go, but I think you should be able to see that. All right? If not, just listen to what I'm saying here. So just for our information, time, we want to keep it in the form of years. Okay? So if we have months, we have to convert our months to years. That's why I wrote this out. Okay? So that you can have. These are the most common months that we have to deal with. I do not think in our first 8 problems that we'll have to deal with anything more than 3, 6, or 9 months. Okay? So when we're dealing with that, we're either going to be dealing with 0.25 part of a year, or a fourth of the year, 0.5 or a half of the year, or 0.75, which is 3/4 of a year. When we go ahead and do this, once again, yes, you can use your calculator to figure this out. I'm just here to help you set the problems up, then figure the math, okay? Make sure you're doing this correctly. So, let's continue on. Let's say that for easy's sake, and this time we're going to keep our money in there for 2 years. So over 2 years' time, we could find out how much interest or how much money that you made in the last 2 years, okay? From the money that you left in there. So they give you this, you get this extra money. So all you have to do is take 500 times 5%, which we changed to a decimal, move the decimal to the left twice, 0.05 is what that changes into. And then multiply that by the number of years. Okay, Mr. Lindblad's got his calculator out here. Hold on, I got to get to my calculator. There it is. All right, so I take 500 times 0.05 times 2. Okay, as I can see, or as you can see, when I get to that answer, it tells me that for the last 2 years, I've earned $50. Okay? So, holding that on for 2 years. Now, typically, like I said, this would be a rare exception for a bank to give you 5%. If you did that, you'd want to snatch that up because that's a lot of money. Usually it's like 0.5%. So instead of $50, you'd only have made like $5 for 2 years, okay? But you're still making money, and you didn't have to work for it. You just let your money rest in the bank, and the bank uses it, and then you get paid for allowing them to use your money. That's what happens, okay, in a savings account. Now, there's other kinds of accounts, like a certificate of deposit, or some other things like stocks and bonds that could help you to actually earn more percentage money on the money you put in. But this is a safe bet. Bonds and stocks kind of get a little bit more riskier. Certificates of deposit are pretty safe too. They guarantee you a certain amount of percentage on your money, okay? But you give it for a certain amount of time, and then you have to reset that. Okay, so let's start going through today's problems and setting them up. All right, now that we've kind of talked about it, I'm going to leave this part up here, and I'm going to write each problem down below here. So let's look at our written exercises for today. We're doing problems 1 through 8. And here's number 1. Okay? And they give us the principal, which is $1,280. They give us the rate, which is 15%. And they give us the amount of time. Now, in our answers today, they want us to give 2 different things. First of all, they want to say how much interest we earned. The second thing that they want us to do is then say how much would you have total then. So you take your interest answer and add it back to the principal. Okay? I'm going to work through this first one with you together. So, like we said, you got your handy calculator, take 1,280, change 15% to a decimal, which is, if you said 0.15, you would be right. Move the decimal to the left twice. Okay. 1280 times 0.15 times 2. Here we go. You do it at home, I'll do it on my calculator. Okay. Did you get an answer? Need a little more time? Here it is. So, this is our interest answer. So there's our first answer. 384. Now, next step is to go back to the principal, the original amount of starting money. And that's what we add our interest to find out what your total amount is now. So 1280 plus 384. If you have 384 in your calculator, just press the add button and put 1280 in there. And there's your second answer. 1,664. Pardon me. We did number one right there. The rest of them are similar. I'm just going to help you set them up, okay? So these shouldn't take much time now. We're going to set them up pretty quickly. If you need to, pause it after each setup to help you out, okay? All right, number two. Starting money is 4,250. Percent is 12. Years are 3. Okay, change our percent to decimal. All right, whenever you get your interest answer, multiply these. You're going to add it back to your principal, and this would be your total. Remember, 2 answers per problem. So this one, you have to have an interest answer and a total amount of money earned answer. Okay? There's number 2. Number 3. This one's got $2,760 times 8%, 18%, pardon me. And then here's where it comes tricky, times 1 year and 6 months. Okay, let's go over here. So 1 year is 1, 6 months would be 6 out of 12, which would be half of a year, which converts to 0.5. See how that works? So that's why I put these over here. This is 3 months, this is 6 months, this is 9 months. I've converted it into decimals to help you out. Okay? Use that little chart, all right? Write it down so that you have it right handy with you when you're doing these. Okay, last thing you got to do is change this to, nope, get rid of the percent, change it to a decimal. Move the decimal 2 places over, that becomes 0.18. So 2,760 times 0.18 times 1.5 or 1.5 years. That answer then gets added to this. Watch out, you might have a decimal on that answer, okay? So remember, we're talking about dollar and cents too. So if you just get one number behind the decimal, remember to add a 0 because pennies have 2, or cents have 2 places after the decimal, right? Like 50 cents or 55 cents, it has 2 places after the decimal, okay? Excuse me, that wasn't number 2, that was number 3, just so that you know. Okay, moving on, number 4. 3,500 times 16%, which we changed to 0.16 times 9 months. So that's not even a full year. So we don't even have a whole number here, we just have a fraction of 0.75. Okay? Now, fortunately, this one will not have a decimal in your answers, so you don't need a decimal. It comes out even, amazingly enough. So make sure at the end you get the interest by multiplying these 3 numbers and then adding it to the principal to get the total. I'm going to leave that part up there every time. Okay, moving on to number 5. Here it is, 5,640 times, change our percent. Now, a percent has a decimal in it. Okay, so remember, when we have one that already has a decimal in it, move the decimal to the left 2 times. You're going to have to add a 0. So this doesn't just become 0.75, it becomes 0.075. Now, what does it have for amount of time? 4 years. There was no months in that one, so it's just times 4. Okay? This answer becomes our interest answer, and then you add your interest answer to the principal to get the total. So remember, 2 answers for each one. Moving on to number 6. $7,250 times. The percent is got a decimal in it again. Okay, this time though, we can move it till it's right in front of the 1. We don't have to add a 0 on this one. Our percent became 0.128 as a decimal. Then multiply it times the number of years. And then this one's got half a year. Remember, half a year represents 0.5. So it's 2.5, 2.5 years. This times this gives us the interest. And then you add the interest back to your principal, which is $7,250. 2 answers. Interest answer, total amount earned answer. Okay, next one. Number 7. 6,380 times. We got 14.5%. Change that to a decimal by moving our decimal place to the left twice. 0.145. Times how many? What's our time? 6 years. Okay, that's it. This times this times this gives me my interest. Add the interest to the principal. Gives me my total amount earned. Last one. Number 8. Big number, 14,650 times, this one's 16.4%. Once again, move our decimal 2 places. So now my decimal place becomes 0.164. Then times 3.5 years. Once again, half year equals 0.5. So we convert that half to 0.5. Now we're ready to multiply. 14,650 times 0.164 times 3.5. That gives us our interest. Interest plus the principal gives us the total amount earned. There we go. 2 answers for each problem. I said it a lot. Make sure you got them both. Remember to put dollar signs by them. They're all working with money. Okay? Good luck on these. Catch you later. All right? Take it easy.